Hi, everybody, and welcome to another Expanding Your Search and Stopping for Directions. On today, it's difficult to even think of much anything else today than the events that happened 19 years ago. I remember that Jody and I had just moved to Tulsa a few months before that, and had began working at Rhema Bible Church as youth pastors. And I think we were in our third month of employment there, and I was getting up and we were getting ready for the day, and I had just gotten out of the shower and was starting to, kind of do my hair, and all of a sudden Jody said, a plane just flew into the World Trade Center. I know we stood there and watched in horror that day. It was just a shock. But in the midst of all that, that day was filled with heroes that spent the day running into those buildings and fighting off the attackers in the other plane. On this day of September 11th, we remember this day, and we are thankful for people who gave their lives to try and save someone else. This is known as Patriots Day, and we do celebrate our patriots today, and we are thankful for first responders who've taken the time to put themselves in harm's way for us. We shall never forget. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Expanding Your Search and Stopping for Directions. It's Brent Bailey, and hopefully you're having a great day today. I'm being joined over at the desk right now by Jody and by Luke. And guys, it is a very somber day, but we have a great show planned for you today. So, without further ado, let's jump right into the middle of things. Man, we got a great show planned for you today. I have Christian rap legend. One of the OGs of Christian rap. I've got KJ-52 with us today, and he's going to be coming on in just a little bit to tell us about what's going on in his world and in his life, and some great projects that he's got going on. And it's always funny because I've run into him at some of the most random and weird places. We had him come to Rhema when we were working there to do a concert for us, and by far, I don't want to get too much into this because we're going to bring him out here in a minute, but it was one of the best concerts we ever had in all the years I was doing concerts there. But then we would just run into each other at random places, and when I reached out to him, his schedule is so unusual, it took us some time to get him scheduled on here. We're real grateful that he's here today, and we're going to have him on here in just a few minutes. But before we get him out here, there are lots of things going on today besides the memorial that is going on right now in New York City and in Washington, D.C. And, it's a strange fact. My uncle, my mom's baby sister's husband, Paul Ficina, is actually the owner of the construction company that rebuilt the Pentagon right after 9/11 happened. Yeah. So it's a kind of a weird tie how that all.
It is weird.
Yeah. I know that when we went to go visit with them, we were first moving to Florida.
Yes.
We went down into his man cave, and he has the flag that was flying over the Pentagon that day.
Yeah, he does.
That the Joint Chiefs gave him.
Yeah,
it's kind of a.
I know. I'm trying to think of the words. I mean,
it's heady. It's very. You're like, whoa.
Like, I can't believe this is it.
Yeah, and so he's a really impressive guy. The team. I don't know what the right word is, but that hired his firm. He had just finished working on the Pentagon when it got hit.
Yes.
And then he rebuilt it. So the team, I don't know who it is, but they called it the Phoenix Project. And they bought Paul a Big Bear custom-built chopper themed after. Because, that was kind of popular in those areas, theming choppers. Big Bear choppers in California made this whole themed bike, says the Phoenix Project on it. Had a picture of the Pentagon and the Ficina construction stuff.
Cool.
Yeah, it's just
and it's really cool.
I got pictures sitting on it with Peyton when he was a baby, so it's really kind of a cool
Does
day.
he ride it?
No, it's never even. It gets started and the oil goes through the engine, and that's it. It has no miles on it. It sits on display in his man cave.
Wow.
So it's pretty cool.
It is very cool.
Yeah. So besides that, and obviously it being Patriot Day, there are other things going on today. Yeah. Today was also the day that Pete Rose broke the record for the most base hits. Now, I know for a lot of people that's no big deal, but for somebody that grew up close to Cincinnati, that is a big deal. I was a Pete Rose fan all my whole life, and today was the day that he broke. This is the day that should get guaranteed him to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
4,192 hits today. Was I remember watching it on TV. So
Cool.
something else really cool, and then we can get into some of this other stuff. The Atari 2600 was released today. And if you follow me on Instagram, you can see footage of me and the boys playing my Atari 2600. Still works.
One is
Oh, very cool.
Yeah,
Still
it does.
works,
And I
and
think
it's
it's cool. Of course, we only did it
there's
one
a-
time.
I think it's pity. They just kind of say, okay, Dad.
It's a dinosaur compared to what they got now. So
It's true. It was 8 bits. I mean, I was watching something. I don't know if anybody's seen it on Netflix or not.
High Score?
Netflix High Score.
yeah, I was just about to say.
Where they had the original drawings of the Space Invaders and Pac-Man.
Oh, so
And
cool.
then what it looks like in 8-bit. It doesn't look anything like
Yeah, how we drew it out in 8-bit
Yeah,
too. Like
yeah.
that's a super cool series.
Yeah, it
I haven't
is.
finished it yet, but
Well,
super
today was
cool.
the day that Atari released the home version of the 2600, and I still have mine. I still play it all the time. So
It's kind of cool what they were saying about working at Atari back in the day. It was kind of like working at Google nowadays.
yeah, or Apple or whatever. They all wore flip-flops and shorts, and
That
that's
was
how we
the
dress
place
here
to-
at the studios. So we just
I am
It's
wearing
true.
my slippies.
we are wearing at least we're wearing pants though.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
So, all right. So what else is going on today, Jody? There are other dates that are up today. What are
did you all make your beds today?
I
That could be the question, because today is National Make Your Bed Day.
they? I plead the fifth.
But it's a whole day.
Yeah, same here.
But it's a whole day. So I'm going to celebrate making
You know what? That's
My
true.
mom
It
would
doesn't
not be
say
happy
make your
with me
bed in
right
the
now.
morning. It just says make,
Make
your bed day.
Exactly.
I will say though, my room looks so much better when I make my room,
Oh,
make my bed in the morning.
Absolutely. It's like you just did a makeover in your room
Yes.
when
Yeah.
you make your bed. It's just like, oh.
It makes you feel accomplished.
It does. In a way, it kind of
Okay,
does.
I'm done for the
My
day.
mom always used to say that, when you get home and you have a clean house, like you can just kind of, like, it's
Yeah.
kind of like letting that breath out, like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. And we just went through a major version of that because we just moved.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was awful. So
Yeah.
so today is National Make Your Bed Day. It's not too late. You can do it
You
even
can
right
still
before
do
you
it.
get back in it at night.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, I will share this little bit of wisdom from my mother-in-law, who's our number
I was
one
gonna
fan.
say,
She's
yes.
watching right now, I'm sure.
Hello, Sharon.
One little
Hi, Mama.
that one of the few things. I shouldn't say it that way. That doesn't sound right. One of the many nuggets of wisdom she's dropped on us over the years, but this one is one that has stuck with me. I remember this one very.
Don't use the pretty towels.
Now, see, you're bringing up hurtful words, especially if you have something on your hands, you don't use the pretty towels, but that's not it. What I was going to say is when you're laying in bed, if you pull the blankets up over you and then slide out the side, it's much easier to make your bed. It just,
Ooh.
I thought that's actually a little stroke of genius.
Yeah. She also says, oh, you always shower before you go to bed and shave your legs because it feels so good.
You know what? I have been
On your
guilty.
legs.
I have been guilty as a manscaper, and I, for a season, shaved my legs on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And it does feel pretty good in bed. When you lay down and the sheet comes across your,
I'll have to take your guys' word for it.
Yeah. Okay.
you try it one time.
Try it one time. It'll grow back.
And it's addictive.
okay.
It's addictive. So, all right. So
All
it's
right.
National Make Your Bed Day. What else?
It is also National Hot Cross Buns Day.
All right. So we're going to have a picture of
Yeah, I
that
need
because
to
what
do a
is
picture
a
of that.
what is a national or what is a hot cross bun? Oh, there it is.
There it is. It is, it just like
It
what
had
you're looking at.
there was a lot of talk of these being
Looks
given.
like a pretzel, kind of.
Yeah.
It does, but yeah, and I actually just lost
It was
on my phone, so.
well, I read somewhere that they gave them to people that were sick with the
Yes.
belief that they're eating and partaking of the cross.
Yes.
It was a statement of faith for people,
Yes,
and
hallelujah.
and it would make people feel better.
yeah,
Get
let's-
some juice in there, and then
You got
just
So all
Sniffles,
you
let's get
folks
some-
that are worried about Corona,
get some hot. hot
there's
cross
the answer
buns.
right here.
And,
no.
you know, you should
We
be able to
should
buy
make
them.
light of that. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry. All right.
true.
Okay.
They also believe, some people believe, because there's a cross in the bun, they should kiss the buns before eating them.
Kiss the buns.
All right.
Kiss the buns.
I'm just gonna let that go.
Sounds like a bumper sticker.
All right. If you say so. All right.
all
Couple
right.
of celebrity birthdays today since KJ's on the show.
Yeah.
We would be remiss to not mention Ludacris. Ludacris is 43 today. He's obviously another hip-hop artist.
Yes.
The current
In the 40s.
Superman on the WB, Tyler Hoechlin, is 33 today. Taraji P. Henson is 50.
Yeah.
Jody, this is one for you. Harry Connick Jr.
Yes.
53 today.
Oh, good. I'm glad he's older than me.
And WWF superstar Paul Heyman, the manager of Brock Lesnar, is 55 today. I'm just looking to see if there's anybody else that really kind of jumped out at me. Oh, Luke, this is right up your alley. Moby.
Okay.
Moby is 55 today. So happy
All
birthday
right.
to all of you folks.
He's definitely got some hits.
I'm sure they're all listening
Yes,
and
yes.
watching.
Yes, I'm
this is
sure
their
they
favorite
are.
podcast.
Yeah.
so.
Hi,
Especially
Moby.
Harry
How's it
Connick
going?
Jr. He's watching.
All right.
Well, let's remind everybody that's watching to be like Sharon and be sharing this podcast.
Boom.
Man,
Right there, just
it's
below.
Friday, folks.
Share that podcast. Just click the
Yes.
share button or the retweet button, and help us spread the word out. Because man, we got a great one today.
We do.
I'm not sure about the year. I want to say 2004 ish. Yeah, that's right. Because it was the first year that we had camp meeting back on campus. We had a concert every year during Summer Blitz, and we were looking for great artists all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to subscribe to this box that they would send us. I can't remember the name of it. I think it was called The Source. And it would come with all this free music in it. Just tons of free music from current Christian bands.
Was that one of those like things that you would subscribe in the
Yeah.
catalog?
Yeah.
Remember back in the day?
It wasn't the catalog. They'd send you a
He's
stack
shaking
of
his head.
postcards.
Yes,
Postcards like this. And they would send, and then you would go through and look at, oh, yeah, I don't want that. Get out of here. Oh, this is cool. And so you subscribe it. And so I happened upon this gentleman's CD in there for the first time. And I was like, golly, this guy's good. And I was so excited to be able to reach out to him, and he was available. So we had him at Summer Blitz, and we stood around and just laughed and talked and cut up. And he was just such a real guy. And then I put him in. I was driving a Hummer at the time. Humvee. It was awesome. It was the coolest car I've ever had. And so he gets in. Him and his DJ get in. I'm taking him to go get something to eat. And all right, I'll be honest. When you're a youth pastor, you're always thinking of promotional things. And I had Van Halen's Jump, and was figuring out a way to use it in like an intro. And so I had it in there, and it had it turned up when I pulled in. I wasn't even thinking about it, and got out and walked in. And so here I got, Dove Award winner KJ-52 in the car with me, and I start the car to dun, 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 and I'm like, oh my gosh! I'm reaching to turn the volume down, and he immediately goes, "Was that Jump by Van Halen?" And I was embarrassed.
Bright
And was
red.
like, I'm a youth pastor at a mega church. Yes, that was a Jump by Van Halen.
Yeah.
And so he ended up using that in his set for a while, and as like an intro or a sample or things like that. And I was so embarrassed, but I was so glad to have some kind of influence in his stage show for a while. And so I could go on and talk about KJ for a long time, but we need to get him on here. I'm so pleased to have him with us. Dove Award winner, hip hop Christian legend. He's got tons of material on iTunes and the Google Play, and he's also got a brand new, it's not brand new anymore. It came out in January of this year called The Victory Lap. Please welcome to the program, KJ-52. What's up?
Oh man, that was the first thing I was going to mention was that Van Halen moment. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah, it was a very humbling moment for me at that stage.
See, to me, it was the opposite. I was like, oh, I met one from my tribe, like somebody that like is pastoral, but like understands hip hop, but like has a deep respect for all things 80s music. And I was like, I remember very clear. I'm like, you can totally play it, man, if you want.
Yeah, I think we ended up turning it back up after that. And you were looking back at your DJ, telling him, what was his name again? I can't remember his name.
His name was Morphosis.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because we were both like old school rock fans and like.
Yeah, I think I remember. I remember you looking back at him saying, "You got to get that in and cut that up and splice it up." And so I just remember it like it was yesterday.
And we totally did.
And so then
Like, that ran in the set for a while.
that's all, man. I have a place in history, folks. I remember them just running into, like, we ran into each other at a wedding right after that, and then I'm emceeing an event down in Tampa at the Emily Arena for Get Motivated, and you're the DJ halftime performance or whatever they call that. So anyway, let's just jump into it, man. How have you been? What have you been doing?
I'm doing great. As of back in January, I went back into church ministry full time. I probably for about a good 6 months was wrestling with what that meant in relation to my music. Then COVID hit, and that canceled like any last shows that I still had on the books. But since COVID's been here, been serving on staff as an associate pastor, creative director, and then also a Go team director. So I serve multiple places, and I've just been releasing singles, and yeah, man, just loving life.
Well, let's just kind of familiarize the fans and the folks that do listen to the show. How did you get started doing rap?
Yeah, so I mean, I grew up with like kind of late 80s, early 90s hip hop. That was kind of like my formative years. And then came to faith at my sophomore year of high school. And then honestly just did that sort of 180-degree turn, wound up just being a person who listened to Christian rap. It wasn't necessarily like, I'm going to do this, even though I always wrote rap since like junior high. Break my nose pole vaulting my senior year of high school, stuck at home. I write my first Christian hip hop verse. I go to this camp a couple weeks later. God does a big work in my life. I stand up in front of everybody, a cappella. They're like, if you have a talent, you can do it. I'm like, all I know is this like couple bar rap. I do it. Everybody kind of freaks out. I was like, maybe this is something I should probably, and I remember like by the time I graduated going like, I should probably record something just to say I did it. And then honestly, by a couple years later, I was driving all around, doing shows, had a group, serving, doing inner city ministry, and wind up at an inner city church. Again, the music just became a great means to an end. And then by 98, 99, I just felt this undeniable burden to do it full time, wound up getting a record deal, and then flash forward 20 years later, and here we are. So now, that's the elevator pitch.
Now, you got a movie that's either just come out or getting ready to drop. It's kind of a biopic because it's called Jonah, correct?
Yeah, actually, that's about a year ago. It's called it came out through Kickstarter, and then now it's on Amazon Prime. But yeah, it's called The Jonah Movie.
And it kind of tells this whole story.
Pretty much. I mean, it doesn't give what's happening, in the last 2 years of my life, which are pretty significant, but it absolutely is everything up to about 2018. All
right. So, what's been going on the last 2 years of your life since we're there? Because I know you flirted with retirement or something, though, right? Is that right?
Yeah. So here I am at this time last year. I was in a very not great space. For the last 3 years, I had been on staff at a church, but it was more of a volunteer, non-volunteer position. I guess you could say I was teaching pastor, college youth director, communications director, but I was still touring full time. I knew by 2019 that it was time to make a shift. But I just had nothing lined up. Nothing was like concrete. So I went up to Michigan almost literally a year ago to wrestle some things out with God. And I remember coming away from that going, what I needed to do was to retire KJ-52, the persona per se. You know what I mean? Like that's what I knew in my heart was time to end. And that while I wrestled with going, maybe it's just time to walk away from music, period, God's gifts are without repentance. And so I knew that it wasn't an ending of music, but it was an ending of an era, so to speak. Little did I know, 2 months later, I'd be on staff at the church I'm at right now. So it was like God gave, like he always does, God gives you the vision and then he provides for the vision. And the transition since then, I mean, granted, I picked the weirdest time I could have possibly jumped on staff at a church.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also picked the best time to get out of the music industry. That is for sure. So here we are, and the beauty is now I you know, it didn't end music. It just ended that 20 years of my life, so to speak. But I say that with no regrets. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know that. I mean, I've been following you for years on Instagram and Facebook and things like that, and I know that you still are very musical. I watched something the other day where you were just freestyling off a beat in the car and things like that, and so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So tell us about Victory Lap. It released in January, but it's a book and it's
There's a
also
book.
and also music.
Yeah. So you know, going back to the sports aspect, when I ran track in high school, there was one thing I always got to watch happen, but I never got to be a part of, which was called a victory lap. And you know, the victory lap is the idea that you finished your race and then you spend one more lap of just enjoying that moment of what that was. And so I thought, let me write a whole album of what that would consist of. Mainly what would go through somebody's mind when they ran their victory lap. You know what I mean? I felt on almost every aspect I had finished the race. I had done everything I came to do in Christian hip hop in a lot of ways. And now it was time to move on. The race was over, but I needed one more lap around to enjoy my victory lap, so to speak. And so that was the book and that was the album. You know, the book is a collection of stories from my life and from my music and from, you know, childhood and all that good stuff. And then the album is actually illustrations of those stories. They're songs based on those stories.
Okay, so can we get you to share one story with us?
Yeah, I'll talk about the time I went to Rama and shot a photo shoot, and then the guy had the nicest Hummer I'd ever seen. No. I'm trying to think. I mean, it really depends on where you want. I pick an era. Would you want a story from my childhood, from teenage years, post salvation, music, tour stories? What
I say, you know, if we're gonna pick one, let's take tour stories. That's usually
tour stories,
really
okay.
good.
So there's one in there. Don't freak out by the title, but it's titled "Porn or Corn."
Awesome. This is why we're of the same tribe right here.
Exactly.
This kind of stuff. Yeah.
And so basically, this was an illustration on a lot of ways. I went and played a show in the middle of nowhere in Indiana. It was with my full band, and we fly to Indianapolis. We got to drive an hour to get to the show. We get to the show. It's in the middle. No, it's literally in a cornfield. And my stage is next to a horse. Like literally, there's a barbed wire fence, and there's a horse keeps sticking his head over the fence, and like he's on my stage, right? And I'm there again as, you know, someone who is a hip hop artist. I'm there with my full band, and it just looks about as like podunk as you can imagine. And long story short, they bring us down to the basement, and you know, they made us this amazing home cooked meal. And they happened to just share with me. They said, you know, we brought a band in last year. They hid out in the basement. They never interacted with anybody, and we had such a bad experience. But hey, we brought you in this year. And I remembered in that moment something clicked. Not that I didn't have this heartbeat, but something clicked in my head, and I just remember turning to my band and going, guys, any semblance of being an artist, we got to get rid of that today. I said, I don't know about you, but I'm going upstairs and I'm gonna go play basketball with these kids. And that's exactly what I did. And so I went up there, and my whole band followed, and we just literally hung out with maybe 50 farm kids all day until the concert. We did the concerts, maybe 100 people or whatever. It went great, and it just showed me that when you show up, you need to show up to serve, right? But as we're there hanging out, we're talking to some of the church people. They had said that someone in their community was building a like adult bookstore or a porn shop or something like that in the town, and the church had been going out in tandem to protest it. Wow. And had been getting arrested for the last couple of weeks. So this is the story. This is the backdrop, and we're like, wow, what a conviction to God's, you know, standard. Again, we get ready to leave. We go to the gas station. We jump in the car. Well, as I'm going into the gas station, unbeknownst to me or them, one of their parishioners is across the street on a bullhorn shouting at us, "Porn or corn? Which one you gonna put your butter on?" And he's shouting this over and over and over and over. And we're just like, what is happening? Out of nowhere, a full-blown storm shows up, blows the man away. And he's still shouting as he's like tumbling down the street, corn, where you gonna put your butter on? And we just got in our car and we drove away back to the airport. And it just became an inside joke that anytime me and the band, we would just say that, right? No one else would get the reference.
Oh, that's awesome.
There's a nugget in there of what it means to stand up for God, to stand up for righteousness, but also to like serve the people, so to speak. And the guy also offered me the horse to take home.
Wow, that's great payment right there. I mean,
yeah, it was a full day.
All right, this is KJ-52. He is, his real name is Jonah, and he used to be called King J Mac, and
wow.
He is. I told you I've been following you for a while, so man, he is just you can tell he's a real guy, but one of the greatest entertainers in the Christian music business, in my opinion. When you said that, it reminded me. We had just about everybody come in at Rhema, and you would stand at your table and sign and take pictures with people, and that's one of the great things I appreciated about you when you were there. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about Dear Slim. I mean, that's kind of, I know you're probably tired of talking about it, but that was such a big controversy for so many people, but it was such a great thing that you actually took the time to reach out to Eminem.
Yeah, man. It's like the never-ending story. Basically, I wrote it back in 2000. I was getting a lot of comparisons. I figured I'll do what hip-hop artists do, is that they write about what's in their environment. So I had the idea of what was called mixtapes. Like mixtapes, you take somebody's beat and then you write to them. I was doing it more from the perspective of a believer. Again, I sit on the song for about a year or two. I start performing it when I got dropped by my label. People started losing their minds. This is before I even got my second record deal. And when I finally got the second record deal for collaborations, I put it out. Again, didn't think a whole lot was going to happen with it. We shoot a video to it. Next thing we know, it gets played on MTV's TRL. They disrespect it. They disrespect me. They paint me. It was just a very unfortunate situation. But at the same time, I had just met the guy who had given Eminem the CD backstage at the Video Music Awards. And so, like, while I was getting a ton of negative pushback, I was also like behind the scenes, like going, wow, God, you can do so much bigger than I could ever imagine. Flash forward a couple of years, I started talking to a prison guard. He had been sharing the gospel with Kim Mathers, so I got to kind of interact with her through him.
Wow.
And then another few years later, VH1 puts me on the worst 40 worst moments of hip hop. Flash forward a few more years later, Eminem comes out with a song called Be Careful What You Wish For, and he talks about a fan who had been praying for him and how it had been weighing on his mind. And so,
wow.
These are all the things that happened almost over a span of 12 years. And I just now put out what I call the Dear Slim FAQ version, which is essentially taking all these things and putting them together and releasing it, kind of revisiting the song and talking about everything that happened. So
that's so awesome.
Yeah.
This is KJ-52, everybody, and man, you've just got so much going on. Let's get to real quick. You've started a Patreon, or somebody started a Patreon for you. It's like a subscription service.
Yes.
What does that? How does that work, and what do they get?
Yeah, so I've done a couple things on Patreon. I mean, really, if more than anything, it's just a simple way to support. Right now, the way the music industry works, it doesn't work. So, like, for most artists that are now independent, they've started either crowdfunding or subscription services. I mean, the way that streaming happens, it's great. It opens up your music to a lot of people, but the payouts are like next to nothing. And so I've done a couple things there. If you want to ever collaborate with me, I put up future songs, and you can jump in and you can write your very best verse. I've had 2 guest features because of that. If you are into my freestyles, you get to actually pick my topics. That's another benefit. But if you're someone that like, I just need music feedback, I need feedback on like my songs, I offer that exclusively there. And so it's kind of like a catch-all spot where I, just have something for very exclusive. There's a ton of like super unreleased, hard to find KJ stuff if you're an Uber fan, whether that's like old mixtapes, old verses, unreleased songs. So yeah, it's like, I don't want to say the inner circle per se, but I mean, that's basically what it is.
Yeah, the inner fan circle. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. So before we let you go, here's the thing that I'm picking up from you. I know that there's so many people that are kind of in the same boat that you found yourself in a couple of years ago, where they thought this was the end and they don't understand everything that's going on right now. If I could just give you a minute or so to just encourage everybody to let them know God's not done with you yet. And even though things have changed because of COVID and everything, there's still something there for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I actually, out of that moment that happened a year ago, I came back and I shared a message that was essentially based on how Jacob, how Jacob and Esau, how they interacted and how God changed his name, how God changed Jacob's name to Israel. And you see that moment where Jacob feels like he's done. I mean, Esau is coming to kill him, right? He has ticked off his brother. This is all going to happen the next day. Jacob loses everything, right? Everything that he had counted in was gone. And he spends one entire night wrestling with the angel, which we find out later was God. He spends that night wrestling with him, and God just keeps making him say, "What's your name? What's your name?" And Jacob's like, he has to admit that his name actually means deceiver. He had to come face to face with himself. And I think God puts us through these moments where we feel like it's over, we feel like it's done, but he's really holding up a mirror so that we can realize that in our own ability, in our own strength, we have nothing. And out of that, Jacob's name is changed. He becomes, Israel in the sense of the nation, so to speak. But on top of that, it says that for the rest of his life, he walked with a limp, because out of that wrestling moment, the angel touches his limp, he paralyzes him, he spends the rest of his life walking with a limp. And it just showed that for the rest of his life, Jacob was going to have to lean on Jesus. He was going to have to lean on God. He was going to have to walk with a staff to remind him that his self-sufficiency is never enough. And that's what I dealt with a year ago, that I had put so much weight and value in what had defined me. And there's nothing wrong with it in itself, but I was starting to allow that to be bigger than the gift giver. And the best thing I could do was to change my name or come back to where I started, so that I can always stay in reliance as I move forward in life. And so if you're in the same boat, just take heart, depending on where you're at there.
Yeah.
But God has a purpose.
My goodness. Wow. That's just extremely powerful. I hope those of you who are listening are taking notes, because that right there is enough to chew on for a while. Jonah, thank you, man, so much for taking the time to come in. I'm so glad we finally got this scheduled.
Thanks for having me on.
And if you'd like to reach out to KJ, right there it is. It's KJ52.com. He's on Instagram at KJ52 Instagram, on Facebook and Twitter at KJ52. Now, those of you who don't know what a SoundCloud is, he's also on SoundCloud. He's got music on there. He's got a podcast that's on there that is just the KJ52 podcast. It's incredible. He's also got a YouTube channel right there at KJ52. Reach out, follow. There's all kinds of material that he's constantly putting out. The Instagram posts in his car freestyling are incredible, you guys. It really, really.
There'll be one up today. So that's my Freestyle Friday.
All right. Awesome. So thank you so much again for coming and being on the program. I hope to run into you in some random spot again. And anytime you got something else going on, if we can do something to promote it, you have an open invitation to be with us anytime.
Super appreciate that, man.
All right. Thanks for coming on the show. Have a great rest of your day. That's Jonah, everybody, KJ52. And, man, so glad that he took the time to be with us today. We've got, a lot to be thankful for. Coming up Monday on the program, I've got, Danetta Williams, right? Is that her name? Oh, that's terrible. I'm awful. Anyway, we've got a great week of shows planned for you coming up next week. I've got the grandson of Kenneth Hagin Jr., Blake Hagan's going to be with us next week. And then former executive producer of American Idol and studio musician in Hollywood, Lauren T. Wiseman's going to be with us next week. So we've got Danette Crawford, that's right. Sorry, I'm so terrible at remembering who's going to be on. But those are our guests next week. You'll want to tune in. It's going to be a great week. We love you guys. We hope that you found what you were looking for today as you took the time to stop for directions. Have a great day, everybody.